Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Our Own Volition, the official podcast of Volition Comics. I'm your host, Peyton Drozd Williams. To our returning listeners, thank you for joining us again to hear what's on our minds. And to those listening for the first time, thank you for tuning in to see what we're all about. In case you don't already know, we're an up-and-coming publishing cooperative based in Austin, Texas. We publish anything from novels to comic books, sci-fi to fantasy, horror to thrillers. The focus these days on superheroes, especially my series, The Keepers. Speaking of The Keepers, let's take another deep dive into that world. In particular, I want to talk to you about how I initially developed the characters and the lore. It all started with me messing around on the Marvel website in 2016. Now, being born in 2000, I was 16. They had a hero creator app or game, whatever you want to call it. I came up with 6 heroes on there in their initial designs. They were, respectively, Maggie Simon, aka Dove, from Montreal, Canada; Husinia Karim, aka Quora, from Algeria; Elodia Robles, aka Glaze, from Bolivia; Vessel Scarl, aka Flame, from the Netherlands; Dr. J. Moore, aka Cosmo, from Memphis, Tennessee; and Sophie Dickinson, aka The Whisperer, from Australia. Now, if you already know the Keepers as they stand today, they're all going to sound pretty familiar, albeit wonky, not quite right. The two that are the most unchanged from those days are Glaze, and I renamed Flame to Blaze. Otherwise, they're pretty much intact, exactly as they were. Granted, Glaze had a cape back then, which I eventually removed. I definitely had a thing for Hispanics and capes then. Still do. Maggie, or Dove, a blogger and influencer with a boyfriend and all, would eventually become Poppy Bouchard, Wingspan. Her visual design remaining exactly intact. Her powers of flight, speed, and strength were retained too, though as I look over my notes, I apparently said that she had, quote, the ability to beam/shoot out pure energy. Huh. The 2016 version of The Keepers, we're going to get a novel at the time, started outlining and everything, but never got more than a few lines in. Who knows? Maybe this is a multiverse version we can see resurface someday. I also need to stress how indispensable her lesbian identity and relationship with Skylar are now. Wouldn't have it any other way. Absolutely definitive to the character as we know and love her today. Now, getting even wonkier, Quora would eventually evolve into Shadelock, Chasiko Etieno from Kenya. Husinia, according to my old files, was taken from her parents as a young kid, thrown into human trafficking, and saved by a Sudanese mercenary. This mercenary inducts her into an underground organization, which would eventually kill her parents when she defies its leadership, forcing her out. As far as what this mystery organization was, or the lore, that's as far as Husinia's story goes, but you can clearly see the plot threads that I would borrow and further develop into Shadelock's story. Her mother is the leader of an underground organization known as the Legion of Hoods. Her father being a commoner, who her mom would wound up slaying. Learning this, among other injustices perpetrated by the Legion, ironically enough, all in the name of justice, this is what caused Chasiko to defect. Oh boy, Cosmo's turn. It's funny that I chose Memphis for some reason when I would eventually wind up living there for a year. And I do have a current canon character from there too, but we'll talk about her a little bit later. Jay followed in the footsteps of his father, Alexander, quantum physicist at Maximus Labs, who built a time machine, successfully sending a hydrogen atom 5 minutes into the future. Subsequent experiments would wind up killing him. After avoiding it for years, Jay eventually became employed at Maximus too, and finished his father's work. An accident would, so to speak, fuse the machine's abilities with his own body. He would be able to move through time of his own volition, pun intended. Telekinesis, telepathy. Sound familiar? Hopping through dimensions, telekinesis, and telepathy are powers that Makara Soon, Buddhist monk from Cambodia, has. Finally, the blonde Sophie Dickinson, who would eventually become the red-headed Sophia, was a linguist who spent years living with animals in a rainforest and learned to communicate with them, as well as in all languages. This would be the inspiration for Ambassador from New Zealand, who created a program that can decipher all languages in the universe, uploading it into her mind. Now, another aspect to all this, the initial beginnings of a wider mythology, which would be completely erased to give way to... Yeah, I won't share that yet. More on that later. But at the time, I had a force for good, the Guardian, and a force for evil, the Vanquisher. In my old files, I mentioned the Guardian a few times, such as in Jay Moore's accident that led to him having all those powers. That was all the Guardian's work, apparently. For the Vanquisher, I noted that he was a member of an alien civilization millions of light years away, who succumbed to darkness, conquers worlds, and appoints governors to administer his law on his behalf. I noted that he has no original physical form, that he is just spirit at a certain point, but that he can take the form of any living being, or inherit it, possess it, shapeshift, at will. I also created a preliminary concept for a supervillain by the name of the Judge from Korea, a mercenary who is the Vanquisher's servant on Earth. Now, like I said, I planned to write a novel with this original set of keepers, but never got around to it. Fast forward to 2017, I revisited those concepts and gave them much needed upgrades. Dove became Wingspan, Whisperer became Ambassador, etc. Cosmo would become a Cambodian monk, but he still sported spandex and a cape, had a wife. It was a mess. I've mentioned before how he would get yet another makeover a little down the line, but we're not quite there yet. In mid-2017, I started penning the initial Keepers trilogy with these revised characters. Poppy would take her first flight and face Dr. James North, aka Manhawk, who became jealous over her flight. Chausico would defect from the Legion of Hoods and embrace her own vigilante identity. Makara soon would be granted his celestial powers by Buddha and would face the Demon of Demons, who at the time I called Ahriman Dawan, a character who was supposed to be a supervillain of supervillains, a foil for the whole Keepers. We never did see him again. Blazing Glaze would be hired by the Containment of Extraterrestrial and Supernatural Objects Division to heist Endo's orb from a Slovakian gang. Sophia would upload the Ambassador Code into her mind and battle her college roommate when she got jealous and things went to shit. And finally, Endo would send the Immortals to Earth and retrieve the orb, setting off an intergalactic war. I planned 6 books, but wound up self-publishing 3 in 2018. I hopped on Lulu.com, a self-publishing service, and released the initial Keepers trilogy, United Front, Battle of Clones, and Darkness on Earth. I used Hero Machine, another character creator app, to make the art that I needed at the time. And where did these books go? Positively, precisely, nowhere. I tried to promote them myself on social media, but it was nowhere near sufficient. First of all, that, and secondly, as I mentioned in the first episode, it just wasn't meant to be at the time. Seeds for greatness. But those seeds didn't just need water, but also sunlight, nutrient-rich soil, fertilizer even. All of this fell into place if we fast forward to 2021. Aiden hopped on board to adapt my characters I had not revisited in years. He stayed faithful to most of them, but Cosmo needed one more makeover. Gone with the spandex, gone with the cape, gone with the hair, gone with the wife, and he was stripped down to his bare elements. A monk, after all, detached from worldly things. We had to learn to let go and let him be one with the moment. So, here comes the robe, the sandals, and the tranquil calm remained. Since the original trilogy didn't go anywhere whatsoever, it was a clean slate for me to fix what needed to get fixed. Cosmo was on top of that list. Gone with Ahriman Dawan, gone with his bonkers and whack origin story of old. In comes a tale worthy of a character like him. I'm honestly so proud of how his new, official, and canonical origin story, Cosmo and the Legend of the First Champion, turned out. We republished Volume 1, complete with the new Cosmo origin and cover art for every story, in October 2023. And fast forward to incorporation in spring of this year, we re-released that version, along with a digitized front cover, as an ebook, with a new physical edition to follow as well. As far as outlines and world building, things do keep evolving. Storylines deleted, shuffled around, or restored, arcs fleshed out, plot threads developed or abandoned as I see fit, whatever is fruitful. But I'm so honored to not be doing this alone. I have a whole team, co-owners, freelancers, everyone chiming into something that is now bigger than just one person. One kid's dream all the way back in 2016. I can't wait to further dive into the Keepers universe with you and the wider Volition Comics multiverse as a whole. Just you wait until you see what I have in store for you guys. Well, not just me, but what the entire team has in store for you guys. Not just my story, everyone's stories. Not just my characters, everyone's characters. Not just my writing, but also our art. As you guys can tell, the creative process is very non-linear. You think you're done or close to done, and your mind gets last-minute ideas to reshuffle, delete, revise, or create entirely anew. This happened and, quite frankly, is still happening with the Keepers. Keep in mind, this saga is planned for years to come, with so many curveballs headed your way. Depending on the project, to what extent it's collaborative or solo, people bring their own flair into the mix, bouncing ideas back and forth. A and I talked about this in episode 2, about how an argument about Glaze's hair color in a cover art variant led to, and this is canon by the way, something I added in after the fact, to have her hair gain blonde highlights whenever she uses her powers. Another example is a mutual friend of ours, Eric, suggesting that Blaze's fire be blue, to distinguish him from Marvel's Human Torch. When you bring others on board, trusting them to not just adapt your vision, but complement it, build it, expand it, fulfill it to its highest potential, it becomes something bigger than you. Heck, even when doing a project solo, as I'm working on a few right now, it still is bigger than you. It takes on a life of its own. This is something I talked about in a short a few months ago. These lores, these characters, these worlds, they take on a life of their own. Not to diminish or minimize my own creativity, my own efforts. I find that the deeper I get into a project, the less I am writing it. Pun intended, of my own volition. My hands, independent of my brain, will begin to do their own thing as my fingertips click and clack back and forth on the keyboard. I will go through all the stages of grief, just like you as the reader would, when I realize in real time what is about to happen. I like to think of myself as the vessel for telling these stories. They're already told. These lives are really lived. These worlds are really inhabited out there, somewhere in the ether, in the cosmic web. As fictitious as you like, as fantastical can be, but that's my experience, or at least how I know to describe it. Amazing what the human mind can conjure up, isn't it? Amazing what the human hand can do. Those of you who already know us and hopped on to hear me talk about this, we've all seen Aiden's art. Charlotte, Mark, Michael, Ashley, Grace, and all the rest. Those of you who by some miracle haven't, if you're just now hearing about us, oh, you have to go check it out. I implore you all. When I create, when I write, my movies play in my head like a movie. Fast forward, rewind, cue the cinematic music, the special effects, the transitions, the establishing shots, the whole shebang. But like in a movie, this exists in the screenwriter or director's mind, up until the point of shooting. When you shoot, when you're on set to film, when you get to that editing booth, when you premiere, those curtains open, popcorn is shoved into faces, and the opening credits roll. It's only possible because of countless people both in front of and behind the camera. Granted, this analogy makes the most sense in the comic adaptations. But heck, even in my short story anthologies or novels, this is true too. Whether it's me commissioning some of the cover art, or a proofreader or beta reader offers their 2 cents. Every bit, big or small, matters. It makes a difference. Truth be told, we're all creators. You don't even have to write, compose, draw, sculpt, cook, any of that to understand or partake in this universal truth. That's humanity, isn't it? To stride, to make, to occupy this sacred space that is our planet, and to do the best we can within it. Think of it. What did you create today? Don't think of it in the strictest sense of the term. Please don't pull up the Merriam-Webster dictionary on me right now. Really think about it. That's my challenge to you today. On that note, thank you all again for tuning in this week. The ebook of Volume 1 is available on Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and other vendors. Issue 1 of the Wingspan comic adaptation is available on Webtoon. You can head to our website to learn more about our team, and to the Keepers tab to learn more about the characters and the world they inhabit. Smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And we've really began to ramp up our social media, especially Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, so keep an eye out for those platforms as well. Thank you again, and I'll see you guys next week.